everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up. Are we fired up tonight or not?
Sure.
Yes, we are. Thank you, Katie. We are fired up tonight. Yes, we are.
Well, I can say that Hurricane Milton is past. I do not think, for as much as people had talked about it ahead of time and how destructive and how it was a Cat 5 at one point, and it hit Sarasota, but it hit them as a 3. It spared Tampa Bay because actually if it would have hit further north, the storm surge would have hit more in there. So overall, and yes, don't get me wrong, I know there was confirmed 19 different tornado twisters that happened, and it has claimed some lives, don't get me wrong, but I think it could have been a lot worse.
100%. Prayers up to those that lost family members.
Of course.
And it could have been much, much worse. I'm glad you guys never lost power. I'm glad we got to have a podcast last night.
Yes, we luckily never lost power.
But as of this morning, there was 2 million residents in Florida without power. And most of it was due to the 19 tornadoes, not due to the hurricane.
At one point, at the highest point, it was 3.3 million and that were without power. And I want to say I saw a figure that was a little bit higher than yours, Jeremy. At 6:30 tonight, there was still like, I want to say 2-point-some million still without power.
I was going by what a guy that lives down there said.
I get that. But yeah, I want to say at one point, I know it was 3.3 million at one point. Now I still have somebody that says nearly 3 million are without power. It was the third hurricane to hit Florida this year. Obviously, I don't know if anybody else, I'm sure people have seen it, but it ripped off the roof off in Tropicana Field.
Yes. Bradenton got hit real bad too. The Pirates lost their fence on their field, the spring training field in the back. The whole fence just went down when it blew over.
It unfortunately spun a tornado that touched down, a couple of them that touched down, and one hit a 55 and older community that was modular homes. And it was on the East Coast. And the problem with that is that we weren't told to evacuate because we were on the East Coast and it was hitting the West Coast. So people didn't evacuate there. And it was a deadly tornado, and it has, unfortunately, the death toll. I've seen the death toll so far at 23, I believe, across the whole state. Now, from that park, there was a number of them were from that park, and they're saying that we're going to see more yet because not everybody
has been accounted.
Did it wipe out that entire park?
It wiped out quite a few of the homes there, yes.
Those are people.
And the roof came down, I think, in Tropicana Field. I think that's what happened. The roof got blown off.
I'm sorry, Ralph, what was that?
I said I heard the roof got blown off at Tropicana Field. That's what I heard.
It did, and that was where their first responders were going to be staying. So they had to move them and stuff like that. So yes. There have been numerous, there was a school that, I mean, at this point, when this hit, obviously there was no school yesterday. And for Palm Beach County, they had no school yesterday, today. They're actually not going to have school tomorrow. Monday, they had a scheduled time off anyways. So, but one of the middle schools, I believe the roof blew off. We've seen where it lifted a dumpster and put a dumpster on the top of a roof of a house. It's flipped over cars. It was nothing to mess with. I'm glad the death toll is hopefully won't get too much higher. I want to say hi to everybody in the chat room, Rick, Patty, Fernando.
I do want to say that my buddy Ken was telling me that he actually scheduled down near Tampa to have a terracotta roof put on his house. And they literally delivered the terracotta shingles on pallets and unbanded them on his roof just before all these hurricanes hit. And
Wow.
I'm going, wow, I hope every single one of his neighbors have the best insurance ever, and he better have good insurance too, because a terracotta roof shingle flying at 110 to 130 miles an hour can decapitate somebody, go right through a wall, smash everything in that room that it hit, because it's going to splinter like shrapnel when it hits that wall. I mean, the only walls that would be safe are brick,
Mm-hmm.
but I bet you it cracks them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, like, talk about poor planning. They tell you what, 4 or 5 days before these hurricanes that they're coming, when
Yeah.
they know because of the way the Gulf Stream and the way the currents are flowing, they know where it's going. They can track it pretty accurately. They're usually within 150 miles of where it's going to make landfall.
Yeah.
And when it's a Cat 3, it's not just the wind speed that decides the category of a hurricane. I remember this from when I lived down there. It's also the size of the eye of the storm,
Mm-hmm.
because the bigger the eye, the faster the wind.
Right. Right. And it depends on the weather system that it hits coming into. And that's why it actually was picking up speed as it went across the state. And surprisingly, it was still a hurricane when it left the state. And that's rare. Normally, when it goes over land, that for as much as it did across the state, it normally loses its hurricane status. And this actually never did until it got out into the Atlantic and it hit some dry weather.
Heard there was some damage in Zephyr Hills as well. Which,
Yep.
what's weird is I lived in Tampa and I lived in Zephyr Hills while I lived in Florida.
Mm-hmm. But good riddance. We don't need to see any more hurricanes this year. I'd like
I'm
to
glad
say
to
it,
cancel my vacation to Orlando.
but hurricane season is through the end of November, so we still have a good month or so to go. No hurricanes on Lake Michigan. Yes. Hurricane Candy talking over sports talk. Well, I'm just acknowledging the big event that happened down here. We are on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. So yes, we were going to get to sports talk, of course, because I don't want to lose any of our listeners here. But that was a pretty big hurricane, pretty big news event for people that live down here.
And you
So,
live down there, so they got to expect you to talk about it.
exactly. But
And
there is. Go ahead.
it's back-to-back hurricanes. That's
Correct.
something we haven't seen in decades. I think they said 1972 was the last time
I
when you
think so.
guys had a minor one come through and then that big one that actually did a lot of damage. This one was just the opposite. And in a way, that's a blessing. But the 19 tornadoes, it's almost unheard of.
It is. Yes. No, you're fine, Joseph. No, you're right. It is very unheard of that it spawns that many, and it's been known to spawn tornadoes, but they were of lesser magnitudes, and these were really powerful ones. If you see some of the footage, it's pretty incredible the footage that you see these days. But
It was 19 tornadoes, but I think almost 13 of them were of the F1 variety, the very tiny ones that do minimal damage and they're just high winds.
mhm,
Basically, anything loose can be hurt from those. Tornadoes is something I can talk about. Michigan, as much as anybody wants to say about it, we had one of the worst days for tornadoes in American history back in 1954.
mhm, mhm. I think
Ours
we
was
we
Hurricane
had
Ag 1972. That was
I think
Pittsburgh.
I think we set one of our records though, because I know we had over 113 tornado warnings in the state in one day, and I think that's like a record. But neither here nor there. let's move on to let's do some sports talk since Fernando wants some sports talk here. What's going on right now? Let's start with the MLB playoffs because it is going on right now. Oh, I got a question for the three of you. Well, Rick, can you hold that question because we're going to start with MLB playoffs, but we will get to NFL and quarterbacks. So let's start though with MLB. Unfortunately, the Tigers did lose tonight, but the series is tied 2-2. So it goes now back to the Guardians, to Cleveland. What are you guys thinking about game 5?
This might be one of those times when switching players out and everything wasn't such a great deal. I kind of wanted them to go ahead and throw Skubal out there, get the game over today. And that way we could have him at game 1 in 4 days, because I have the feeling the Royals are going to win tonight to take it back to New York. The Royals played good baseball all year, and the Guardians have played good baseball all year. You could say your Tigers blew it, but you know what? It was a good game. It's 5-3. I had a feeling it was going to be a higher scoring game than what we saw. We needed some players to show up, and they didn't. That's it.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. And right now, the Yankees are up 2-0 over Kansas City. The Yankees lead that series 2-1. So, Jeremy, you already said you think the Royals are going to win. So, wait, let's go back. Ralph, your take on the Tigers and Guardians.
Well, I hope the Tigers, win again. I mean, I know they lost today. Jeremy, the series isn't over yet, correct?
No,
it's tied 2-2.
Tied 2-2. Okay, what is it, 5 or 7? 7?
It's a best of 5 in the divisional series. The best of 7 doesn't start till the championship series.
Yeah, well, I hope Detroit does well because they have a good young team with some good players. They've managed to balance things out better than most teams as far as being a young team goes. They have a good manager who, in my opinion, shouldn't even be in baseball, but that's my opinion. But he's doing good in Detroit. Okay, and I got to give him credit for that as well.
Okay, what about?
I feel like he should be coach of the year.
Or
nobody expected. Yeah,
no,
nobody saw Detroit at the All-Star break doing this. They were, what was it, 0.02% or 0.2% at the All-Star break. It went up to like 15% at the trade deadline because they started winning after the All-Star break. And then they became the hottest team in baseball without their second best pitcher in the starting rotation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what about Yankees Royals? What do you think, Ralph?
Well, it's good to see New York back in the fray here. They've been out for a few years, back in the playoffs, back where they need to be. It's good to see that. But I like the Kansas City Royals. I always have. They've always been a scrappy team that has played well over the years. Another small market team that has done well for itself. And I think I like Kansas City here. I hope that they can, keep it going and beat the Yankees. I mean, no one likes the Yankees that much anyway. So, but again, the reality is they're back in the playoff fold. So, I mean, but the other reality is I hope that the Kansas City Royals beat them. I'm not a Yankee fan and never have been.
And Jay, we'll get to that. That's the next topic, but we're talking about the MLB playoffs. And the gentlemen on the panel don't know who's retiring because I didn't tell them
I have a guess. By the way you said that. It's you.
Huh?
It's you.
Oh, no. Nope.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so back to the MLB playoffs. Padres and Dodgers. This series is tied 2-2 now. They play tomorrow night. Who do we think is going to take that series?
The team that scores the most.
Which teams again, Candy? I'm sorry.
Padres, Dodgers.
I'm rooting for the Padres. I want to see the Dodgers go down again. I mean, they overpay for everybody every year, and then they make it to the first round of the playoffs, and they fold their tent. I mean, it's like, they constantly do that, and I hope it happens again this year too.
Well, congratulations, Aaron Judge. You just got your first extra base hit of the postseason with a double.
Who got struck out by Paul Skeens struck out.
Right. I'm just saying, so far in his career, if you look what Aaron Judge has done in the postseason, he has more strikeouts than hits. He's done nothing. He's got more flyouts than extra base hits.
So
and
he's done
nothing. Has 0 home runs in the postseason. Up until today,
when you need
I
him the
don't know
most.
the box score.
When you need him the most.
You know what I said? He's the MLB's version of Kirk Cousins.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
So, yes, I did call the Mets. I called it the Mets because, as some of you have heard on other shows that I have said, the team that beats the Brewers in the playoffs, in any of the rounds of playoffs, go on to the World Series. Not necessarily win it, but they go on to it. And that has happened, I believe it was like 8 or 9 times, every time. So the Mets took the Brewers out of it. So the Mets, yes, and the Mets beat the Phillies, which a lot of people didn't think that they were going to do.
No, Philly always has a great team all the time. I mean,
they are currently waiting the winner of the Padres-Dodgers series. And I think that'll be interesting because the Padres have been hot, but the Dodgers, they've got a bigger payroll.
This might be the year that they actually do it, Candy. I mean, they flop, like I said before. Every year they get all this talent, they overpay for it, and then this talent gets hurt, and then they ended up, stinking up the joint and getting out after the first round of playoffs. Kind of like another team in football that's from my area here.
My parlay already failed. I had Aaron Judge not getting an extra base hit. He just did it. So my parlay is done.
Okay. Anything else from the MLB playoffs that we want to talk about?
Not particularly.
I mean, you got the Padres and Dodgers. It's probably the best matchup in this series, is why it's knotted up 2-2. I mean, and the Tigers, they had the Guardians number coming down the stretch. We had to beat the Guardians to get in the position we were at, to get into the playoffs. Because we were at that point where it was a 50-50 thing if they'd make it when we played them, and we won 2 out of 3 then.
Okay, so not a sport we talk about very often, but
what's that, bowling?
No, we are going on to the next topic, the retirement topic, because everybody wants to know what we're talking about, who's retiring. It was announced today that I would say one of the better tennis players in the men's game, Rafael Nadal, announced his retirement. He's retiring in November after the Davis Cup. He has pretty much.
I would say that's not that surprising that he's
Jay
retiring.
says WNBA. I like that one from Jay. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was good.
But the WNBA has been resurrected now, thanks to a few players.
Yes.
2 in particular this season.
Yeah. Yep.
Angel
Reese and Caitlin Clark. Wasn't for them two.
Correct. So Nadal has played professional tennis for 23 years. He has garnered 22 Grand Slam championships, as well as 36 Masters, 1,000 titles. He's 38 years old. He has had a dominance on clay, really was his forte. He did the French Open.
Before you did in the chat.
Yep. Yes. He's had a lot of epic games against Roger Federer. He had, in fact, Federer said
Wimbledon
Nadal's career was iconic. Yes. So
I remember that Wimbledon when it came down to Federer and Nadal, and it went all the way to the tiebreak. Almost every single part of that set that they went through, it went to a tiebreak, and it was an amazing thing to watch. And I think Federer in the beginning had Nadal's number, if I remember right. At
except
one
on
point, he
play.
was like, "Yeah," but at one point, even at Wimbledon, I think his first 2 times he bested Nadal, and then Nadal got so dominant on clay that Federer couldn't touch him anymore. Ralph, did you get a haircut?
No, I did not. No, I don't cut my hair. I get it trimmed because I have a ponytail, or I have my hair is real long in the back, and I put it up in a ponytail whenever I go to special functions. But I get it trimmed every once in a while.
I cut at least one a day because I like to keep everything even.
I haven't had a serious haircut in probably 15 years.
So yes, I used to play tennis, and so tennis is kind of near and dear, and that's why most of you don't know that, but that's why I wanted to bring it up tonight. So because he announced it, I think today or yesterday, so I thought that was kind of big news and something that we don't normally talk about. So
yeah, that is something different.
You know, and sometimes we do that because we talk about anything around here. Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit of NFL. Uh-oh, huge news. What's the huge news, Jay? What are you breaking? What news is breaking?
I think he means your huge news about Nadal retiring.
Oh, yes. I remember Natasha and John McEnroe getting pissed off. Very difficult sport. I tried once. I couldn't even see the ball off the serve. I stood there like a statue. It is a tough sport. You have to be, I mean, I haven't played it in a couple years, but I played it religiously. I can say that for some reason, I always went to tiebreakers, and I wasn't very good in the tiebreaker. I almost went to state. I lost in a third set tiebreaker in my playoffs. Otherwise, I would have gone to state in high school, and I actually lost in a third set tiebreaker to not make the college team as well. So, but I love this. I love playing it when I do. I just haven't done it in a long time. So, yes, that is pretty big news for Nadal. Only rich people play tennis. Looks like candy.
That's not true.
I would say it's probably one of the least expensive ones because you really only need a racket and some tennis balls, and normally you can find courts that you don't have to pay to play, and you only need one other person. So it's not like you need a whole team like a baseball or basketball, and you know and all that. But Jimmy Connors would get pissed off too. Yes. And yes, I do know the Red Wings open tonight. They actually delayed their game an hour because they didn't want that much traffic trying to get down to Comerica Park and Little Caesars at the same time. So they started at 8:00 tonight to stagger it a little bit more.
The Pirates had to do that this year to accommodate the Steelers one time.
So I'm going to say something that I said last night on my podcast, and I am completely wrong, and I was mistaken. The 49ers are taking it to the Seahawks in their house. It looks like the hangover from that Lions game is still lingering.
I thought the Niners would lay another egg.
I did too, but they're up 16-3 at halftime.
So let's talk a little bit. We got to talk about the dysfunctional Jets. I'm sorry.
Oh, gosh, yes, absolutely.
And the reason why I want to go back to them is they have a new head interim coach, Jeff Ulbrich, and he did the same thing that Robert Saleh was going to do. He relieved Nathaniel Hackett of his play calling duties. So he will no longer be the play caller. So what do we think? Downing, who is 44 years old, he is taking over, and he's what, the quarterback's coach, I believe.
He
And
was also the passing game coordinator for the Jets. So it's not like they're totally changing the scheme. All it is the guy that was called telling the offensive coordinator, "Hey, these plays are what work against this defense." Interim coach guy named Jaredgoff.
I heard Aaron Rodgers slipped on a banana peel this today and will not be playing.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people wish that, though.
I don't think the problem was Aaron Rodgers. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, Aaron likes to stick his nose and has a lot of control and stuff like that.
It was actually brought up about the Lebanese flag thing on Twitter, and Dan Leonard pointed it out that on his hoodie, Robert Salah at the game had the Lebanese flag on his shoulder. And the owner actually is big about supporting Jewish and the Israelites in the Middle East and his friends with ambassadors in Israel. So that might have had something to do with why he fired him without talking to anybody. Whether that is it or not, we don't know. It's all speculation. And that's one of those TBD moments that you don't really put out there public like this because it looks bad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? It was multiple things, Jeremy. It wasn't just that. I think probably they've had some bad drafts. Aaron Rodgers didn't pan out like they wanted him to. He got hurt last year. Now this year he's crying like a little baby. You know, and it just multiple things. You know, with this team. So it wasn't just that. I don't think it was just that either. There was multiple things involved here, but Aaron Rodgers did contribute to I would say the majority of it. Okay, that was part of the problem a little bit, I think.
But everybody points out his record. But what I want to point out is Robert Salah was a defensive coach. It's his first coaching job. What failed him is the offense every year.
Yes.
And at that point, if the offense is what's failing, that's why he had a different offensive coordinator every year. The problem is when you're a first time head coach, and this is one of the things we talk all the time about. When you're a first time coach, your coordinators better be experienced.
Yes. Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. How do you think Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin succeeded when they first started? Bill Cowher brought in Ron Earhart, uh, Dom Capers. He had Dick LeBeau as his defensive coordinator there for a little while, and then when Tomlin's first come in, he hired Bruce Arians, and then he had Dick LeBeau, and so that's what you have to do when you're a first time head coach is bring in some really good assistants in order to offset your inexperience as a head coach, and that's what you have to do. I mean,
just,
because if you
just
don't do it like that, forget it. And then also too, another thing, Jeremy, that makes a lot and Candy, that makes a lot of coordinators bad as head coaches is when they try to be the coordinator and the head coach. Okay. They need to be the head coach, the man, the guy who gets involved in everything, not just, well, I'm going to go in the defensive room and let whoever and do the offense and forget about everybody else. You know what I mean? I've seen too many of those coaches get fired easily.
Jeremy, you want to respond?
it's just, he's a head coach. He had a new offensive coordinator every year. The first 2 years in the league, he had 3 different QBs starting. And I'm not saying that Salah didn't deserve to be fired for 20 and 36, but the defense was never the issue once he got there. The year before he got there, the Jets defense was one of the worst at tackling. I'm not tiptoeing around anything. What I'm saying is Joseph Boston calls it out right there. If you're going into your third or fourth season, whatever, and you've averaged six different QBs a year between injuries and poor play, the players on the field have to do better too. So you can say all of this and everything else, but at the same time, the Jets prior to Salah being there was one of the worst tackling defenses, and now they're at a 90% tackling rate as a team. So he took it from a 45% tackling team and turned it into a 90. He doubled their tackling efficiency. He did his job with the defense. So I'm not as big in saying that Salah deserved to be fired as everybody else. I'm saying that Nathaniel Hackett should have been fired after the second game, as bad as that offense looked.
And for some strange reason, Jeremy, it seems like after he left Green Bay, he's just been horrible. It was bad in Denver as a head coach, and now he's with the Jets and he's not doing anything.
Well, and it lends credence to exactly what he was trying to do when he got to Denver with their GM just before the Walton group took over. Remember, because
right.
The first quarterback they tried to trade for was Aaron Rodgers. They offered the Packers the exact same deal as what they offered to get Wilson after Green Bay said no.
Nathaniel Hackett should never have been hired by anybody else.
Candy would know.
He is not the coach that people thought he was. I think that LaFleur was more involved in that offense and that Nathaniel Hackett should not have been. I mean, I would never have given him a head coaching job. And then I do not hate the Jets. Let's be clear. I don't have any reason to hate them. I don't have any reason to like them though either. I just think they're dysfunctional. They haven't been good. They haven't had good quarterbacks.
No, they have not.
Okay. Hey, Jay, I got something for you. So the owner fired Salah without talking to the GM, the coordinators, or the players. The GM chose to take Zach Wilson and told Robert Salah to accept it. The GM has picked every coordinator for him because he was hired first. Yes, and Joseph Austin says it right there. Hackett was brought in because Rodgers said Salah was undermined the whole time. Jets ownership worst in the league 20 years minus Snyder.
Yes. Nathaniel Hackett should have been let go a long time ago. But that's neither here nor there now. And the Jets are none of our teams on this panel, thankfully. So
I have a question for you two when it comes to Robert Salah.
Okay.
We've seen a lot of good teams with some bad defensive play, mostly due to poor tackling. Let me name them for you, the ones that have failed to tackle well. The Lions. That's the main reason why they lost versus the Bucs. The 49ers. That's the reason why they're behind the Seahawks in standing. The Green Bay Packers. That is why they fail in stopping the run. And of course, the Carolina Panthers. Their defensive coordinator is non-existent because other than the Raiders, they look like they're the second bye week on anybody in the NFC schedule. Right. So I'm saying, what makes the most sense to you for someone to hire Salah before next week starts? Because you could bring him in an assistant defensive thing, saying, hey, you're our DC going forward next year. Which team needs him the most?
If the 49ers want to stay relevant, I'd hire him back. That's what I would do.
I suggested that too, because right now they're DC. Put it this way. The Panthers have the 29th defense. Guess who's the 30th?
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
No.
No.
It's San Francisco.
Wow.
Okay, so we have to get back to there was a question that was asked right in the beginning of the show, but we weren't talking NFL at the time. So I do want to go back to Rick's question. Rick's question was, I have a question for the three of you, one by one. Tell me who your top 3 active quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Go ahead, Ralph.
Right now, Sam Darnold of Minnesota. Right now, let me think for a second here. Probably. Wow. That's not a toughie, but it's. I would have to go through the teams to actually figure it out. Oh, Jalen Daniels from the Commanders. He's having a good year. Let's see who else. Baker Mayfield's not doing too bad down in Tampa. So.
Is that your 3 right now?
Yeah, that's my 3 at this point.
I have it as, well, Sam Darnold did fall back to earth, but let's face it. The week 1, Jaden Daniels never got off the earth. So because he lost badly to Tampa Bay in that game. So I say that's a wash. That's like a 1A, 1B. And my second best quarterback in the league right now, other than them two, are technically my third. I kind of want to almost put Goff there with the performance he had the last 2 weeks. He was 36 of 41, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and an 87.8 completion percentage.
Brandon Staley is the assistant head coach in San Francisco on defense.
No wonder why their defense sucks.
No wonder why their defense is bad, Jeremy and Candy. No wonder. Yeah.
I think Goff is my third best quarterback in the league right now.
Yeah, Goff's doing good. Yeah, I kind of forgot about him, but those were the 3 that were at the top of my head at this point.
What about Josh Allen?
Yes,
Josh Allen, he's been up and down, though. Didn't he also lose a game already, too? Yes. And it was a bad loss. And he had 2 games where he had less than 200 yards passing. One of them in a loss. Am I right?
Yeah.
Tell me who your top 3 active quarterbacks. I mean, if you're asking for who I'd want as a quarterback right now, that's probably different. But let's see. Yeah.
Lamar is sitting at 8th in yardage and 6th in touchdowns. He's just not turning the ball over as much, except in the game he lost to the Raiders.
And he will be later in the season.
I mean, you got it. Joe Burrow's having a good year.
Yeah, but his team is.
I understand that.
His first 2 weeks, he was not good.
No.
At all.
But I would say there's probably that you could say that about all, like some weeks about any one of these quarterbacks. I think I mean, Patrick Mahomes, like he hasn't had the.
Yeah, I even forgot about Mahomes too.
But. Okay, so
everybody has a bad game. I mean, it's not yeah.
Yep. Isn't that a Lombardi quote? If you don't win, you lose.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, Robert Saleh probably should have never been a head coach to begin with. Some guys are better suited to be a coordinator.
And Jay, if you didn't know what my team is, you will be disappointed because I know you're not going to be a fan of my team. My team is the Green Bay Packers.
Absolutely.
Which on my show, we say found the porpoise a lot.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, now Jordan Love is back. See what happens.
And he's become, I would say he's more of a Brett Favre than he is an Aaron Rodgers. He's more of a gunslinger and tries to needle it in, and you're going to have
Love.
some. Yeah, Jordan Love. I would say. If Daniels can win on Sunday, he can be number 3.
Joseph Austin.
I know. That's okay. Hey,
I keep telling everybody his success is because of his coach, Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, as an offensive coordinator, a lot of people don't realize Cliff Kingsbury stunk as a head coach, both in college and in the pros. Great quarterback coach, though. Super quarterback coach.
They nicknamed it at where was he from? Texas Tech, was it?
Yes, Texas Tech. Yes,
At Texas Tech, and then when he went to Arizona, they called it the Kingsbury flop. You could go to the mid-season of both as a college head coach and as a Arizona Cardinal head coach. He literally would go like 5-1 and 4-2 or whatever else through the first half of the season, and then go 1-5, 0-6, 2-4. Never once broke 500 in the second half of the season with Texas Tech. He goes to Arizona. There was at one point they were 10-1 and they come to face the Lions. You remember this year, Ralph?
Yeah, I remember that. Yes,
Dan Campbell's first year, and we housed them, and they didn't win another game all season.
Yeah, he just, there's another guy that's a good quarterbacks coach and just didn't make it as a head coach. And sad part about it was he didn't do it in either college nor NFL. Andy and Jeremy, he didn't either one of them. So
let's do the blind comparison here. I'm going to give you some stats for somebody, and I want you to tell me what you think of these. As soon as I find them. Good Lord.
Jay, the answer to your question is yes. I am from Wisconsin. So yes, I grew up a Wisconsin fan for all of the different sports.
There we go. I got 3 of the top quarterbacks in Jared Goff stats, right? Side by side for the last 21 games, and I'm going to give them to you. Goff is 15-6. Lamar, because they had a bye week in those last 21 games, is 15-5. It's very comparable, right? Goff has a 67.9 completion percentage. Lamar has a 67.1. Goff has 37 touchdowns. That's total touchdowns. That's with his rushing. Lamar has 36. Now let's go down to Pat Mahomes. We all know Pat Mahomes is a GOAT. That is rushing and passing combined. In the last 21 games, Goff has been 15-6. The Kansas City bye week came late last year again. He's 14-6. 67.9 completion percentage, 67.4. 5,590 yards for Goff, 5,087 for Mahomes. 35 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Pat Mahomes, 33 touchdowns and 19 interceptions. Now think about what I told you about last year and all the interceptions he had called back too. Passer rating, 97.5 for Goff, 92.1 for Mahomes. Now the last one is another elite quarterback that everybody puts above Goff. Josh Allen. In his last 21 games, he's been 14-7. So he's played the same amount of games, same amount of time that Jared Goff played. 66.9 completion percentage. That's a whole percent less, which isn't bad. Anything above 65% in the NFL is considered good to elite, correct? Is what they say.
Yeah.
Goff leads him by 470 passing yards. He has one more touchdown in Goff, but he has 2 more picks. The passer rating's at 97.5 for Goff and 95.8 for Josh Allen. So technically, by the statistics, head to head in those games, Goff technically is a little better than everybody except Josh Allen in the touchdown department. He has less interceptions than all of them, including Lamar. So when people say that Jared Goff isn't an elite quarterback, he puts up elite numbers. He does that when he has a good team and a good offensive line in front of him. And as long as we have that, Goff will continue to put up elite numbers by the end of the season. That is what I've been trying to get through to the fans. Do you disagree with anything I said there, Candy?
No. Nope. I think for some reason we don't put Goff in that elite category. And we haven't for a long time, even though you've just proved how many with his numbers and stuff like that.
Jeremy, I hate you for being so good. Now, here's the other one. So if he's had more yards in the same amount of games, more touchdowns than all but one of them, and a better touchdown to interception ratio than all of them, why isn't Goff up there in that top 5 when they do the quarterback rating? He's always hovering somewhere between 11 and 17 every year, despite doing that type of performance. Now, if you say the last 21 games, you know that all of last season, plus the last 2 games of the year before and the few games now.
Many traits make a quarterback elite. Goff is elite at some of them.
Absolutely. And he still is like the 5th quarterback and wide receiver combo that both have passed and received a touchdown in the same game. You want to know what's funny? Is the first one did it in 1942, which is only like 10 years after the invention of the forward pass. And that's what it is. People look at Goff and they don't see him taking those deep shots downfield a lot. But at the same time, we've seen him do it twice out of the 3 passes to J-Mo so far.
Let me say this. Quarterbacks have to do what the defense gives them at times. And sometimes the defense doesn't give them anything, and they have to throw short passes. I mean, that's...
And some, let's also face it, Ralph, sometimes if you get behind in a game, you become very one-dimensional. And if you don't have a good running game, you become one-dimensional. And so all you're doing is throwing. I mean, what game was it? The quarterback tried 55 attempts? I mean, like, that's
these guys. That was versus Tampa Bay. We couldn't run. Everybody thought we weren't running the ball well, but when you look at the stats, we actually ran the ball very well. What we didn't do is score in the red zone. Why? Because as soon as we got within the 20, we started trying to pass the ball in instead of running it. And it wasn't because they stopped the run. It's because we stopped running it after we got to the red zone.
Right.
So it was 54 attempts by Goff, and he had less than a 50% completion percentage. He still had over 300 yards. And we had 189 yards on the ground. Bottom Line Sports says my Cowboys upset the Lions. You better hope so, because otherwise you're 0-3 at home, Cowgirls.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Tom Brady also talked about the system quarterback thing. He goes, that is such a bad nickname for a good quarterback. Because guess what? There are 32 systems in the NFL, and every QB is a product of that system. So a system QB just means you're a franchise quarterback, technically, is what he's trying to get through to people.
Yep. I agree.
So,
Okay, guys.
bottom line, what's the verdict on Parsons? Is he in or out? Because they say he's week to week with that high ankle sprain. Good question, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Okay.
anything else you guys want to talk about? Any other before we get to my town?
I don't have anything else.
So if you
He's out.
if you haven't watched the show before, one of the segments we do on Fire Up is My Town, and it's where all the panelists can talk about what's happening either in the town that they live in or in the town that they grew up in, if they'd rather. So let's start with Mr. Ralph. What's happening in your town?
Well, it's starting to become fall weather here. It's getting chilly. That is happening. And they're continuing to fix up our building here that just had a fire here about 3 weeks ago. That's going on. But sports wise, the Penguins got blown out last night. We're going to see what they do tonight against Detroit. And then the Steelers, on the other hand, can't figure out what quarterback's going to play this Sunday, but I'm hearing it's Justin Fields. But I did hear today from one of my sources that Justin Fields will play, but he'll be on a short leash, which means, and Russell Wilson is ready to play. So he will be the backup quarterback based on Justin Fields' performance, and we're going to hope the Steelers don't lay an egg this week against the Las Vegas Raiders like they did against Dallas. And and now I got to eat it because they came into our home field and beat us. Shouldn't have lost that game, but what else is new? But yeah, so that's going on. And in my town, that's really about it. It's not a whole lot going on other than our county executive pissing off property owners because she wants to raise property taxes up 47%. Other than that, that's it.
Mr. Jeremy, what would you say is going on?
So even though we lost today, in 2 days we will have tarikskubal on the mound there in Cleveland, and so far he's been unhittable by the Guardians. So I expect that the Tigers shall take that on and win. And while Micah Parsons is out, Lawrence is on the IR, Gaitan is week to week too. I don't know if he's playing or not because they said it looks like he could, but he might not. I expect the Lions to win 34-17.
Okay. So what's happening in my town? Well, the town I live in down here in Florida, the Florida Panthers opened their season on Tuesday night. As most of you know, we do cover the Miami Hurricanes college football. They have a bye this week. So we will be at the Florida Atlantic game versus Wagner.
That'll be a hard game. Wagner's a very tough competitor.
I'm trying to bite my tongue because it's the Miami Hurricanes on the bye week, but 2 hit this past week. Oh,
yes. Back home, where I would say, since I'm originally from Wisconsin, Wisconsin is on the road this week playing Rutgers. 18 tornadoes.
Who's on the road playing
Wisconsin?
Rutgers?
The Wisconsin Badgers are playing Rutgers.
You know what? Rutgers isn't doing too bad this year, believe it or not. I mean, they're actually doing quite okay for themselves.
Rutgers is 4-1.
Yeah.
They actually beat Howard in week 1. They beat Akron in week 2, Virginia Tech in week 3, Washington in week 4, and then lost to Nebraska last week. Now, the reason why I'm going to say I think it's going to be a tougher game, let's face it, if you don't all know that Wisconsin's first string quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke, is out for the year.
Right.
And then Maluzzi is out. So with both of those out, Wisconsin doesn't have the backups that some of the bigger elite teams do. So I think it'll be a test. Plus, they're on the road. So, Wisconsin, the team that we thought would be good, but they are not. But like I just said, when Wisconsin's first string when they got Tyler Van Dyke, and not that I was really high on Tyler Van Dyke because he played down here in Miami and I've seen him play. But when he went down, we went to the next quarterback. And for Wisconsin, for not an elite program, your second string or third string, it's tougher. Candy, if you could have a jersey other than Green Bay, which one would it be? Oh, that's a good question.
That's a great question.
Wisconsin? Or are you talking just NFL?
Just NFL. I know where he's going.
It would not be Detroit, and I'm sorry to say that for you guys, but for some reason I always, until the Denver Broncos took Green Bay out of the when they won the Super Bowl over us, I had always liked, for some reason, I had always liked John Elway. I'll be honest with you. I always thought he was good and I liked him. Jay, I do not hate Detroit. I just know my team plays against Detroit. And I would say that I give respect where respect is earned. I never trash talk, maybe a little bit with my husband, a little bit, but normally not on this kind of panel. I do not trash talk. But Jeremy, I'm putting an order in for a number 7 Elway jersey for Candy.
Oh, Jay, I will contact you. Yes, I have your number. I'll text you when we're getting ready to do it.
Uh-oh, what are you guys doing?
No, I have a line on the company that sews all of the Nike jerseys is in China. And I have a line through one of the suppliers. So I actually get stitched official NFL jerseys, just like you can buy at Dunham's, which are not game authentic jerseys. They're just authentic NFL jerseys. The ones you pay anywhere from $160 to $200 for. I get them for around $65, $70.
Wow. Only request is you'll have to beer Candy, huh? My boss would like that because my boss is definitely a Broncos fan. And that's not the reason why I like the Broncos. I don't know why.
Would you like it in the old original Orange Crush?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I don't know.
I interviewed one of the current Bronco coaches once.
Did you?
Yeah, I used to have a show called Ralph Williams 101. I interviewed assistant head coach Mike Westhoff.
I can say one thing, Jay, that my husband has tried to get me to wear a Lions anything, even a baseball cap, and I just won't. And part of it is just because you guys are in my division. It's not that I don't like you guys. I would root for you guys over Chicago or Minnesota any day of the week. Let me put it to you that way.
And Candy knows, because we've talked about it, the last 10 years, Detroit has not been an easy out for Green Bay.
Nope.
In the last 3 years, definitely not.
Correct.
So it has nothing to do with the friendly banter of us two people backstage talking a little crap to one another, because we do that.
Nope. Yep.
But you know what? We do it with respect. I never degrade her as a person. She never degrades me as a person.
Nope.
Will we talk our crap about the teams and how they play? Yes, 100%.
Exactly. I actually have a Brett Favre jersey, an Aaron Rodgers jersey. I'm trying to think. I have two other. I have a Bart Starr jersey.
You read what he said right there. He had to give it away because he hated Brett Favre so much.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes.
And James Burgess about the other. I am seeing Dad on Saturday, so I'll pick that up for you then, and I'll have it sent out next week. I did an auction for one of our guys, and he bought a couple of items, and I just haven't been to Dad's to pick up the items so I could ship it.
I understand. Well, guys, anything else we want to talk about tonight?
Not really. I don't have anything.
No. Let's have some good baseball going forward. And yes, Seattle's making a comeback. It is now 17-22.
Ooh.
My husband would love a Barry Sanders jersey. When is Ralph writing a book?
I'm not into writing books. I can get someone to do it for me, but
That reminds me, I should be. I have a book to publicize. Lessons from the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. It is written by my husband, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. It talks about his 40 plus years in the media industry and how it has changed. It has some great stories in there, and there's a picture of a young Scott with a young Muhammad Ali. Get your copy on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple, and Google Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where Jeremy writes for us as well, so you can read his writing there.
I actually write for somebody? I didn't know all that.
I know. Jay has 2 Barry Sanders jerseys.
I have my original.
I have a Charlie Batch jersey.
I am later on, like I think it was either chapter 9 or chapter 10, somewhere in there. It was towards the end of the book. I don't remember what page. And yes, it takes money to publish a book.
Candy, what picture from sports was your favorite picture? Now, you guys are not going to like the answer to this question, because I'm going to tell you the picture that I took that I like the most, that I do not have up on any website at all. I took it, I don't even remember exactly the game, but I was at Lambeau Field. I was in the tunnel, and it was after halftime, and Rodgers had gotten injured during the first half, and he didn't go out with the rest of the team to go out into the tunnel yet. So he is actually standing in the tunnel with a green light coming down on his Rodgers jersey. And I actually took the picture, and I have it. It kind of reminds me of the commercial, the Coca-Cola commercial, with Joe Green, but it's
Right.
Aaron Rodgers in the picture. And I just thought it was a cool picture and stuff like that. But I have taken lots of other pictures. I've been on Lambeau Field. That's a pretty iconic place to take pictures.
Jay's like, share it.
I know. Yes. I haven't. Let's see.
Maybe I'll write it. I will try to do that, James Burgess, but I have to have a little more credibility with my writing before I will get those credentials. But once it happens, yes, I would be happy to go anywhere and meet up with you and write about that type of stuff.
Yes. And I will say Camp Randall is an awesome place to go. I mean, I have been to the big house, but I think I do enjoy Camp Randall. I have been to Ford Field. I've been to Times Square with the Giants and Packers playing. It was snowing. That one.
That was a great game.
Mm-hmm. Hey, kid.
Hey, by the way, somebody asked me on my podcast about when was the last time Aaron Rodgers threw 3 interceptions in the same game. I said, I know. It was week 18 versus the Lions when he was with the Packers, because Kirby had 2 of them and Aiden Hutchinson had the other.
So, Jay, I'm going to answer this for my husband, because the saddest sports moment ever, he actually was at the game where the only guy died on the field, where Chuck Hughes died on the field.
Whoa.
Yes, he was there.
Yep, and that was in
I witnessed a couple
1971,
sad ones.
right? Isn't that when that was? If I remember right?
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. And yes, it is in the. I believe that is in the. Yes, that's
I
in the
think
book.
it's when he mentions how much he hates
Yes.
Herm Edwards in the book.
Yes. Yes. How old?
Yes.
What year was that? When Chuck Hughes died? Let's see. Chuck Hughes.
Yeah, Chuck Hughes. It was 71, I believe.
Yeah, October 24th, 1971. Scott would have been 9 years old. 8 years old. 8
And
gonna be.
J.I. says, yes, Cosell Edwards, LOL.
I love when you share old
My
sports
One of
memories.
my favorite memories was being at the game, because up until that point, they said the longest home run ever hit out of Tiger Stadium was Reggie Jackson in 1981 when he cleared the bleachers and hit the light post. I was at the game when Kirk Gibson hit the ball so hard it went across the road into the lumber yard, the one you looked up, Candy, where they estimated it was over 700 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Because it couldn't get that far unless it went over 700 feet because it landed inside the fence of the lumber yard. I want to think, if I remember right, that was early during that 35-5 run. And if I remember right, we had just started playing baseball in April that year because that was one of the first years that went to 140 games. It was the early 80s, wasn't it, Ralph?
Yes. Yes.
And I believe it was April 28th, 1984. He hit it over the right center field and it went across the street to the Ace Lumber Yard. It was their warehouse for Ace Lumber. So it literally landed in that lumber yard. And Ralph, what's your favorite sports memory that you remember?
You mean bad? You mean a bad one or a good
No,
one?
your favorite.
Your
Your
favorite.
favorite.
Your favorite.
My favorite one was, and unfortunately for me, I was walking across the Clemente Bridge because the Pirates were down 4 runs to the Houston Astros at the time. And I was walking across the bridge, the Clemente Bridge, with my brother-in-law. And all of a sudden, I hear the fireworks going off because Brian Giles hit a home run, and the Pirates ended up winning the game because he hit a grand slam with the bases loaded, 2 outs, and he had two
And the,
strikes on him. And I said, "Oh, we're done." So my brother-in-law and I, we just decided to start to walk. Started across the Clemente Bridge, and next thing you know, there's a home run hit, and we won the game. We ended up winning both games. It was a doubleheader against Houston.
that would be a huge thing to see. You know what I mean? To be
Yeah,
there.
it was. But we had to watch the home run from the Clemente Bridge because we had left thinking, "Oh,
Yeah,
Giles can strike
that
out. It's 2 outs,
that that would be like your best worst moment at the
two
same time.
strikes." Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. But that was a good one there. And uh, the two bad ones were Ryan Shazier getting hurt for the Steelers, and then Damar Hamlin getting hurt. They had to, that was the two bad ones that I didn't like. That injuries and stuff. That is someone that got hurt. That wasn't two of my favorite games to
Yep,
watch.
I
I
remember
didn't
that
watch
one.
them, both of them.
I remember watching it on TV. I wasn't there.
Yeah,
Yeah, and Damar
that was
Hamlin was a scary moment too. Yes, it was. Um, I actually was live during that. I was doing my own show during that. But we were doing our show, and
right.
I couldn't finish. Um, 'Cause that was what 2 years ago now, right?
Yeah, it's at least
Mm-hmm.
been 2 years. Yeah.
This is the second year. It was December, if I remember right, that year.
The interesting part about it was I lived in the neighborhood where Damar Hamlin lived at one time, McKees Rocks, and he went to Stowe Rocks High School. I used to live in the community not too far from his house.
I
So
think I think
where
my
he grew up.
second saddest moment that I remember of, I can't remember the coach's name, but he drove naked through the Wendy's drive-through and got arrested for the Lions. Cullen. Joe Cullen. That was his name.
And I'll tell you another good one was the Roethlisberger catch or throw to Santonio Holmes in the Super Bowl against Arizona. That was a great play that I enjoyed watching over the years. And the razzle dazzle play that the Steelers did against Seattle in the Super Bowl too. That was another good one there.
Patty Grimes. His was Mike Utley. Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah, Mike Utley was bad. Yeah.
Andy, any issues? And what did Scott make you for dinner?
So, any issues from the hurricane? Luckily, no. At least not on my side or anything. We did not have any damage. I can tell you that a couple of my employees, some of their relatives had damage. But other than that, luckily, we didn't even lose power. So, thankfully, we're safe from the hurricane. And Scott does not cook. So Scott did not make me dinner. I cooked dinner. So yeah, didn't even lose power. Amazing. Yes.
That's a good one there. What did Scott make you for dinner?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I thought he was a cook. I mean, I don't know that.
He will tell you. He will tell you about the time. If you want to ask him, he will tell you about the time he microwaved a grilled cheese sandwich in the microwave for I think 4 minutes. It was more of a hockey puck than anything else.
He has told this story.
I will have to tell him that he looks like a cook. That's kind of funny. What did I make? I made tonight. Tonight we just had leftovers. We had some leftover pork and some leftover chicken, and we had some grapes. So
wait,
what'd you do? Clean out the fridge, huh?
Scott has the glasses. He has the mustache. If he were the chef and had the big wooden spoon and fork, I would love to hear him go.
Oh my!
Pork and chicken in the same meal? Yes, because we had leftovers and we were just finishing them up, so they were done.
I made they laugh.
Mm-hmm. Seriously, really seriously, those are Scott's words. Yep.
Yeah, that's why he said it. Seriously?
Yep.
Really? Seriously?
Really?
That's the way you do it. I know.
Yes. Yes.
Everybody wants to know what we all had for dinner, I suppose.
I had boneless chicken wings, so in other words, giant chicken nuggets.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The Swedish chef.
Okay, guys. Anything else you'd like to talk about today?
My wife and I were too tired tonight to cook, so we stopped at Wendy's and grabbed a couple burgers. That's what we had.
Burgers are the way to go. If you're not going to cook, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
And you got them from a restaurant, not fast food, right?
Jay, I had a burger from Wendy's. And,
Wendy's.
My lovely wife did as well. Yeah, I can't eat McDonald's food anymore. I get sick on it.
Oh my God. I can hear
chicken Big Mac. Oh, I don't know, man. That chicken Big Mac with that Thousand Island dressing, man. I don't know. I want to try it, but I don't want to go through being sick.
Well, if you're in the Detroit area, Scott would tell you you got to get Big Boy.
Is Albie still up or Albie's Big Boy, huh?
Oh my God, Patty Grimes, Big John Steak and Onions is one of my absolute favorites. And the saddest day of my life happened just 2 weeks ago.
Thanks,
I got something for you about McDonald's. The French fry supplier for them is laying off employees because they said they're not making enough money, which means McDonald's is not ordering a whole lot of French fries and they're not making money off of McDonald's.
So Big John Steak and Onions has had pretty much the basic menu of steak and onion sandwiches since they were established in 1924. My stepfather in 1985 introduced me to Big John Steak and Onions. And I told you one of the reasons I moved in here is dealing with dementia.
Oh.
So we're riding in the truck, and he goes, "What do you want for lunch?" I said, "Well, Big John steak sounds good." And he literally asked the question, "What do they have on the menu?" And that right there was when it hit me how bad it's getting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, I may be a grown man, but ever since what I've been through and what it put me through to hide things, I broke down a little bit. But I held it in until I got home because I couldn't let him know it upset me.
Right. Right. It's hard. It's tough. That's really tough to see somebody going through that.
Yeah.
It's tough. On that note, Mr. Jeremy, how do we close out all of our shows? We want to first thank everybody. Well, let's go through how people can get a hold of us. Let's do that first. Ralph,
Yeah.
how can people get a hold of you?
Facebook, YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel. Check out all my shows and archive versions, and please subscribe. I need 24 more subscribers in order to make 200, and it's been a struggle. So I need 24. Call your friend, call your cousin, call somebody, get them to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, I have one radio show right now, and in the process of having a second one. It's a Sports Corner radio show every Saturday, 2 to 3 p.m. on 1250 AM, 92.5 FM here in Pittsburgh. It's called The Answer. I also will be having a second show coming up starting Saturday, November 9th at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., and it's called The Ralph Williams Show. But here's the kicker of them all. Right now, you get me twice on a Saturday. In November 9th, you get me 3 times because 9 o'clock a.m. until 10 p.m. live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch is the External Bum Show with me, Scott Morganroth, Leo Haggerty, and Jeremy Ballrick. It's going to be this week. It's going to be myself, Candy, and Jeremy, because Scott has other arrangements, and Leo disappeared because of the hurricane and is not available. So say prayers for his family and all the other ones as well.
Prayers up for Leo. I hope he's okay.
He's with his son up in Charleston, South Carolina. He got out
Oh, good.
for the first hurricane, Helene, and he's still there for Milton. So he's living in his son's house until the coast is clear to come back.
I would too. It sounds like that whole corridor on that western side of the state is going to be tore up from Jacksonville to Tampa for a minute.
Yeah, my friends' kids live in St. Augustine, Florida. They said everything's okay. They're okay. So, and I'm going to reach out. I'm going to reach out to Blake, Ray Kennedy, and Harry the Greek tonight. Before
Harry the Greek was great. I remember meeting him.
Yeah. He said he would leave, but his mother lives with him and his wife, and she's 90 years old. They can't go nowhere.
Jeremy, how can we get a hold of you?
Well, you can read my writings right here on the SouthFloridaTribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading. You can find me right here on the South Florida Tribune channel, occasionally on Inside the Pigskin, on the Motor City Mad Mouth show, and also Fire Up. Then, of course, there's my channel where you never know where I'm going to, when I might be live, because when I'm asked to be a guest, I share it to my channel, such as I do with this show. Sharing from the South Florida Tribune channel to my channel, which is Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions. My daily show is from noon to 1. That's Lions Talk with Smokin' Jeremy B. Yeah, this isn't my show, so I can't do that, Jay. I know what you're talking about, and it would get me in a lot of hot water with the publisher. This isn't that type of show.
So you were watching the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. We published a book. Scott wrote it, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning in the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple, and Google Books. It talks about Scott's 40 plus years in the industry and how it has changed. There is a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where we also have a link to our merchandise store where you can buy hats, caps, t-shirts, you name it, go check it out. You can also check out Jeremy's writing, Scott's writing, my pictures, all kinds of other great information. But we do want to say thank you to everybody that has been in the chat room tonight, and as always. And we would also ask you from us here at South Florida Tribune that you go and check out everybody else's podcast, their YouTube channels, subscribe, go watch them because they're giving their time to us. So we want you to also, watch them and support them as well. With that being said, Mr. Jeremy, how do we close out our shows?
Try every day to be a better person than you were the day before. That's the only way to make the world a better place. It starts right here. Much love to everybody in the chat. May you have a safe and blessed weekend. May your parlays hit and any bets you make win.
Have a good week, everybody, and everybody be safe. Good night.